It's very hard to oppose a war. They want you to sit down and shut up and sing.
That's right.
And that's what we are becoming, a warrior nation for this reason.
I don't think we can afford it much longer.
I mean, it is certainly endangering the lives of our young adult children who are vulnerable to conscription now because of our rootin' tootin' shootin' foreign policy. I mean, now we've got unmanned aerial vehicles. A guy sits in Nevada with a joystick looking at a TV camera on a drone and firing it into a group of people. We're killing women and children. And this is on Obama's watch.
So you're disappointed in him?
Well, my goodness, we're the most powerful nation on earth, and we're doing with joysticks and a video game and killing people, civilian people, and wonder why nobody likes us.
And the purpose of my stories was to take it out of the field into the White House, and where it does, it's not that the president or the Secretary of Defense, Mr. Rumsfeld, or Bush or Cheney, it's not that they knew what happened in Abu Ghraib, it's that they had allowed this kind of activity to happen. And I'll tell you right now, one of the great tragedies of my country is that Mr. Obama is looking the other way, because equally horrible things are happening to prisoners, to those we capture in Afghanistan. They're being executed in the battlefield. It's unbelievable stuff going on there that doesn't necessarily get reported. And things don't change. What they've done in the field now is they tell the troops, you have to make a determination within a day or two or so whether or not the prisoners you have, the detainees, are Taliban. And you must extract whatever tactical intelligence you can get, as opposed to strategic long-range intelligence, immediately. And if you cannot conclude they're Taliban, you must turn them free. What it means is, and I've been told this anecdotally by 5 or 6 different people, battlefield executions are taking place. What if they can't prove they're Taliban? Bam. If we don't do it ourselves, we turn them over to the nearby Afghan troops, and by the time we walk 3 feet, the bullets are flying. And that's going on now.
You did include Obama in your list of liar presidents. I was wondering if you would include him also.
At this point, he's in real trouble, because the military are dominating him on the important issues of the world, Iraq, Iran, Afghan, and Pakistan. And he's following the policies of Bush and Cheney almost to a fare thee well. He talks differently, and he's much brighter. He's much more of the world. So one only hopes he has a game plan that will include doing something. But he's in real trouble in terms of, he's in real trouble. In Iraq, I don't have to tell anybody the prospects. In the American press, they never mention Muqtada Sadr, but look out. He's going to be the kingmaker of that country. He's now studying in Iran. And he's going to be the next Ayatollah to be. He's going to probably, I don't know how we'll work it out with Sistani, but he's going to be the force, the Shia. And and so this is going to be very complicated for us, because the 2 men we talk about, Alawi and Maliki, have about as much to do with the average Iraqi. They're both expats. Alawi is, let's see, he was certainly an American agent and a British agent, the MI6, the CIA. The Jordanians ran him probably for Mossad. I'm not telling you anything that's not a fact. That is not a fact. So who knows? So Iraq is very problematical. There's going to be much more violence. Whether it's civil war or not, it's going to be much more violence. He's never going to win, whatever that means, in Afghanistan. The only solution in Afghanistan is a settlement with the Taliban. And the only person to settle with is Mullah Omar, and he's become another Hitler to the American public. And so how are we going to do that and survive politically? And the same in Pakistan. He's got the wrong policy there. So it is, and again, for Obama, Iran's not resolved in terms of, the Iranians have come out of this crisis stronger than ever. We don't want to believe that.
By the way, when was the last article you read about Iraq? How are we doing? Is there anything, what's going on in Fallujah?
Military commanders are considering delaying the start of a major pullout of U.S. troops in Iraq. It was supposed to take place this summer, but a recent surge of violence there is forcing the U.S. to reconsider.
By the way, now we have over 1,000 Americans dead in Afghanistan.
The Bush doctrine of fight them there and they won't get us here appears to be continuing to break down, as we now default to just predator drone them to death wherever they may be on remote control, and an apparent sort of non-event in Afghanistan. It's like a charade. I don't understand how this war in Afghanistan is protecting me from a car bomber in Midtown. In fact, I'm concerned that the war in Afghanistan is creating more car bombers in Pakistan that want to come to Midtown.
One of the things I was thinking about before coming on the show, and this gets more to your broader question of why are we there, we actually supported the Taliban when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan.
We armed them.
And so this is yet another example of, unfortunately, the United States feeling that we can sort of change the course of history in this part of the world that even Alexander the Great failed to change. So, look.
But that's the question is, why am I safer? Why are you safer? Why is Brent safer? Why is anybody in this country safer? Because we're spending a lot of money and sending a bunch of our soldiers and weapons to a landlocked mountainous nation in the Middle East for the past 10 years and appear to be staying there for God knows how much longer. What strikes me, again, is the Richard Engel comment. America's knickers are in a bunch to the point where it's ready to throw everybody out because we're taking people to the Caribbean without giving them proper rights and putting them in prison. But having kids with joysticks in New Jersey and Las Vegas dropping predator bombs on civilians willy-nilly is a valid foreign policy. Strikes me as if I've gone crazy. We'll save it for another day.
You're not going to get me to defend it.
No, I'm not.
I wish,
I get it. I'm not. No, listen. No nobody's going to defend it. It's crazy.
What do you think when Obama sits around the table with the Joint Chiefs of Staff? What are they really talking about in terms of why they're making this commitment?
Well, I think the best way is to pull out a map of Eurasia and Central Asia and look where Afghanistan sits, look where Pakistan sits, and the only U.S. presence of substantial military importance is the nascent defense relationship with India that began under Rumsfeld. But the key point that the Pentagon and the full spectrum dominance agenda is positioning for in Central Asia is what Zbigniew Brzezinski back 12 years ago talked about, to be able to prevent a cooperation process between China, the largest economic power on the Asian landmass, together with Russia, the largest military power still intact, and with the largest natural resources. So I think this is a long-term basing strategy for a permanent military presence in Central Asia, can strike right at China from the back and also to Russia. There were less than 100 Al-Qaeda in all Afghanistan by the estimates of the National Security Council, and that they posed no military threat neither to Afghanistan's government or to certainly to the United States, and that the Al-Qaeda is de facto a dead letter. It's not an issue. So in his speech, the president used the Al-Qaeda as a major justification. It was a piece of rhetorical deception. It's a very regrettable deception because there's no transparency about what this military mission is all about. Taliban today in Afghanistan, and this comes from various sources, both from outside and from inside Afghanistan over the last months, this is a name given by the Pentagon to almost every grouping inside the country that wants to get these occupiers out of their country after 30 years of war, occupation, and devastation. And if they get guns, they're going to start shooting at anyone wearing an American or NATO uniform. And many people can understand that. So I think this, to give that the name Taliban, does not necessarily mean you're dealing with a centralized force structure. It's like giving every petty crook in the United States the name Mafia or Cosa Nostra.
News reports that young veterans, the men and women who have served in Iraq and Afghanistan, are twice as likely to attempt suicide as those who have not gone to war. What's more, recently uncovered emails among top staffers at the Department of Veterans Affairs confirm that 18 veterans kill themselves every day. These figures apply to the present day, as well as to wars dating back to World War I.
Democratic leadership promised the American people that if they voted Democrat, we'd move to end the war. Why are we still in Iraq? Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11, with Al-Qaeda's role in 9/11. Iraq didn't have weapons of mass destruction. Why have we lost 4,000 of our finest troops? Why have we seen tens of thousands of Americans injured? Why have we seen over 1 million innocent Iraqis killed? The war's based on lies. The Bible says you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. We need to start telling the truth here on this floor about the war in Iraq. And we need to end the war, end the occupation, close the bases, bring our troops home.